Welcome to the Therapeutic Food Solutions podcast. I'm your host, Marian Mitchell. I'm an integrative nutrition health coach, therapeutic diet expert, and founder of The Road to Living Whole. There are many different diets out there. It's hard to know which one is right for you with your chronic illness and autoimmune disease. In this podcast, I'm going to share with you the foundational pieces every single therapeutic diet out there shares, and also how to use the best one for your particular diagnosis. If you've been looking for a meal planning partner, help navigating the complicated healthcare system, and want to feel better quickly, I'm your girl. Grab your kombucha and notebook. Let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I am thrilled for today's guest for you. She is going to bring you so much value, and she's probably going to make you a little angry with what she has to share. It's something that I'm quite passionate about and I talk about, but this is what she does. This is her mission. And so our missions are parallel, but we come at it at different ways. And I just know she's going to bring so much value to you. She is the founder of Hidden Consumers Consulting. Her name is Amy Graves. She is not the doctor, Amy Graves, but she is a consultant. And she has just this incredible story of going from chronic illness to health, and how she got there and her mission in life at this point in time. And I'm just really, really excited. So Amy, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I've been drooling to be on your podcast. I'm so excited. Trying not to fangirl over here.
I get that way over some of my guests. Like I just get so starstruck. Like I'm like, I can't believe I'm talking to this person, and it's so fun, and it's kind of weird to be on the other side of that too. But like I said, I am so excited for you to share your story and your mission and just this wealth of knowledge that you have for this community that are people either in the thick of chronic illness, on the other side of it trying to avoid it, or they are practitioners who need resources and just are learning information. So, um, introduce yourself, share your story.
All right. Well, my name is Amy Graves. I do own Hidden Consumers Consulting, but I'm also an advocate for the people with food allergies and sensitivities, and really trying to trailblaze a new way in how we market businesses to people with food allergies and sensitivities. My story started years ago, like decades ago. Um, Everything in about, what was it? I was in the process of searching for a new neurologist. I had been diagnosed with complex regional pain syndrome type 1 in August of 2008, after the onset injury was 2004, because we're women, we don't get diagnosed appropriately.
Ever.
And
It's
I
your
was so
period, lose weight. Here's an antidepressant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And the whole reason I was looking for a new neurologist is my neurologist, who happened to be a woman, did not understand or comprehend the journey I wanted to take with my diagnosis. I was having some really severe reactions to medications, and I knew I had to stop and start over. And I was reading up on CRPS. At that time, it was really known as reflex sympathetic dystrophy syndrome, which is technically what I have. And I just said, okay, well, and I just shook my head yes. And then I'm doing it my way anyways. And I slowly took myself off of gabapentin. I don't know if it was slow enough, but I took myself off of gabapentin because my pain levels were so intense. I had to try something else. And along the way, she got really mad. She started telling me my husband had to be present for me to be believed, that a man had to. I was so off the wall, it's all in another book that hasn't published yet. It was so bad. So I got to the point where I was dealing with off and on paralysis. So I decided to go in to see the emergency room, because she told me if I didn't go to the ER the next time I had paralysis, she was going to count me as a fake and label me that across all my medical records. So I went to the ER, where I then had to fight because I don't want medication. So I say, please note on my chart, patient required no medications. She refused all medications. I said, all I want is, I want a better neurologist. Who do you recommend? Because it was the only way I was going to get a good one.
So I want to interrupt here because I have a friend who has lupus, and her doctor mismanaged her medication so badly that she almost died.
Oh no.
And this was kind of in the towards the tail end of the COVID um, pandemic. She had 105-degree fever, and they were like, take a COVID test. That's fine. 105 is not bad. She is a 39-year-old woman at the time. Like, are you freaking kidding me? And
Mm,
so she ended up going to the emergency room, not as fast as I would have liked. If I had known about it, I would have told her to do it that morning.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, she got a new rheumatologist, and he has
Yeah.
been incredible for her. But sometimes it takes going to the emergency room to get a good doctor because mismanagement is so bad.
Well, and I talk about it in the book too, is we just have this rampant thing with doctors thinking they have this God complex. If I don't know it, you can't be experiencing it. Oh, really? Really? Let's
Right. Yeah. You know, the not
Yep.
believing the patient is probably our biggest frustration in this world because
Especially for
this is
women.
our experience. We live with it every day. We are doing the research. Just partner
Yep.
with us. I don't need you to tell me what to do. I want you to partner with me. And they just, yeah.
Yes. Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, which is exactly what I found in my next doctor. My neurologist was like, because of the symptoms I was having, they were very multiple sclerosis. I can't even say the word, but MS
MS. Yeah.
presenting. Turned out not to be MS, which for 5 years I've been told it's not MS, but I was presenting that way. He actually knew what the problem was. Thank goodness. But in that process of doing that final MRI, he's like, you've got a major lump in your sinus cavity. You need to get into an ENT now. So I called my primary. They got me into an ENT within a week. ENT is like not really concerned. He's like, yeah, you're fine. I'm more concerned that you've got a hole in your sinus cavity. Well, to this point, I'd literally been dealing with a sinus infection off and on for 3 straight years. Like it just constant. There was nothing was working. Medications actually made it worse. Like
Mm,
little things that as I look back, hindsight is wonderful because I'm like, well, now I understand why that made it worse, right? So I
right.
go in, ENT, he's like, yeah, we're gonna be fine. You'll be in and out of surgery. I do this beautiful thing. Both your sinus cavities are gonna match when we're done. It's gonna be gorgeous, and no one's ever gonna know I was, know that all that fantastic work I did. Day of the surgery, I come out 3 hours later. Every every open cavity within that sinus cavity was stocked with a infection, and it took them 3 hours to clean out every pocket of infection. The lump was actually impacted infections. That's all it was. And he's like, it was probably one of the most disgusting things I've ever had to take. Like, you're an ENT, don't tell me this.
You're in like a medical journal somewhere. They're like taking pictures. They're
Sure.
like the smell, and I mean it's so crazy because infection can really do that, right? Like it can get to these little places that
You would never think. Yeah.
yeah. And oh, and again that dismissiveness. Oh yeah, we'll do surgery, it'll be fine. And then they get in
Yep.
there and like, "Oh,
Oh.
she was right." And you're like, "Thank you, I guess."
The interesting thing was it was because of him. He referred me to an allergist. He goes, the
Oh,
only people that have impacted sinus cavities like yours are people who are allergic to something. He's like, you have to figure it out. And that launched everything that I learned. And it turned out my doctors were not helpful. I had the best allergist. She actually partnered with me. But up to that point, I had already done all the food allergy testing. I had done so much testing. I mean, I knew all my environmental allergies. I was doing allergy shots, which turned out I was allergic to allergy shots. Like all of these things because we were trying to do what was right, but we still couldn't get to the core base. Like I was on pills for eczema. I was being treated for IBS. I was being treated for my acne had gotten so horribly bad and nothing, no treatments were working. And my allergist is like, yeah, we don't know what's wrong with you, but you clearly have an allergy. I said, well, this is what I did. I've been tracking all my food. And as I was tracking all my food, keeping my journals, I was actually tracking my responses to my food because that's the big part of it. Not just what the response was, but what time I ate versus what time the response happened. Because
yeah.
it wasn't always like immediately afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Uh,
some responses that are days
yeah.
later. Like,
I,
I
yeah.
had a friend who had a casein allergy that she didn't discover for years, but her reaction was 7 to 10 days later, that she would just become debilitated. But
Oh,
yeah, no, that tracking is something I have patients or my clients do when they're an anomaly, they can't figure it out.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was interesting is when I figured all this out, high fructose corn syrup was in the news at the time. And I started thinking about everything and looking into where's corn? Where's corn? Where's corn? Where's corn? And I realized, okay, so this is probably a corn allergy, is what it was tracking towards. So I just kept tracking and started eliminating things that I knew were corn, still getting sick. And eventually I did figure out I was just a super sensitive. Like I was drinking like the right coffee, but in a to-go cup. That was like corn wax. I broke out. I would have all my farm fresh food, and then I would break out because of the pots, the pans, or the plastic utensils. Yeah, yeah, that, yeah. I had to get rid of, I would put my good leftovers into a Tupperware container and I would have a reaction. Histamine, because it's very, I have not been diagnosed with mast cell, but it's very, I have a lot of the symptoms that say you should probably be tested, but nobody's been wanting to do that. Yay, me. So high histamine issues, like I've got a lot of different things going on, and it really turned out I had to like clear out my life. No carpet can be in my house, no silicone or plastic silverware. Like everything has to be glass, stainless, or ceramic. That's my
Yeah.
entire life.
Yeah.
And that just it launched into we moved to California because I needed fresh food. I can't buy food in a grocery store because even the organic isn't true organic. So I do have a reaction to it. So we moved to California, and I had always wanted to be a consultant, and because I am also visibly disabled, I struggled to find a job. And so I'm like, I'm just going to open my own business. And I started off, and 11 days later, COVID happened.
Oh man.
So I'm like,
Oh,
okay, I'm not going to be a business analyst for small business. I'm going to open up, I'm going to just fix what's the current problem we're dealing with. And it was websites. Websites is where everybody needed help, especially the small business person. And that's who I was really trying to help. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, I got to do this. I have to get into the food industry. I have to help them market better because marketing is like I'm like the person that people go, oh, like this is so healthy. I bet you eat this. I'll go, oh, bad, bad, bad. I'm like, I wouldn't touch this with a 60-foot pole. And they're like, but what? I got it at Trader Joe's. I'm like, I can't even walk into a Trader Joe's. Don't, it's not what you think it is. Yeah, and that launched my whole company, which the mission really became is how do we make grocery shopping safe for everybody? Because
that is such a challenge
on so many levels.
on so many levels. Yeah, and you're an extreme
I
case,
am.
unfortunately,
Mhm.
but I'm so grateful that you're using it to help others and to change the system. That is not an easy task in any way. Companies love to use fancy words to, but still make it as cheap as possible, which then can fool a lot of people. You were talking to me about that allergy-friendly bakery that
Yeah.
opened up in New York, and you did your research on that and found.
Yeah, and so not to only did I find research on it, but I just got a newsletter on it from Christina Heiser. She does celiac self-care. And she was just off. She was like so mad at this place. I'm like, yay, me too. So this bakery in New York City has gone viral because they're claiming to be free of the 9 top allergens, and they call themselves allergen free. So from a marketing perspective and legal perspective, they are not allergen free, and they can be sued if we had money in the USDA for an FDA for their bad marketing practices. Like they are literally illegally using terms. Her big thing was obviously she has dairy issues, she has celiac issues, and one of the products they offer is a peanut butter and jelly bagel. Like, I'm like, all the sensitivities are like right there. Nuts, dairy, celiac, like, and it's like, oh, but they're getting away with it. They're going viral for this. And all the people who have actual allergies who are looking into it are like posting negative reviews. They got sick just walking into the bakery because of all the wheat flour that's in that, because that's what happens. Like you get sick breathing in your allergen. And what they're doing is this app company is paying others to give them 5-star reviews to bury all the negative results of people saying we can't actually eat there because they're not allergen friendly. Like,
Yeah, that's so unbelievably illegal. But that makes me think of like, I don't know, it was years ago when I was first newly gluten-free for my daughter, and there were these gummies at Starbucks, and I look at them and they're like gluten-free and they like have like a symbol with it, and then I look and it's processed in a facility
with wheat.
with
Yeah,
wheat, and I'm like,
it's
this
not.
is not gluten free. This is, you know, like maybe you don't put it directly in the ingredients, but it's floating in the air. And it's like my mom is deathly allergic to nuts. She can actually have peanuts and almonds, but she can't even be like my sister can't even walk into pie shops that have pecan pies, right? Like nut allergies are really prevalent. And like
Yeah.
she can't even get coffee from Starbucks when they have their pecan whatever Starbucks drink because like just it being in the air
Yep.
causes her to have a reaction. And unfortunately, with Trader Joe's, everybody's like, oh, they have so many gluten-free options. It is not in a dedicated facility, you guys.
Yeah.
And so if it's not an allergy and you're just trying to minimize gluten for maybe autoimmune purposes or something, that might be an okay option. But if you are allergic to wheat or celiac level, Hashis, those types of things that you have to be 100% gluten-free. I call it 150% because like you have
Right.
to be so on top of it. Like it's not a good option. Right.
Okay.
And it is like this marketing. And then what my frustration is when these amazing companies do come out and they do all of the things, and eventually they get so big that they get bought out and then the formula changes. And I'm just like, dang
Like
it.
Siete. Siete
I
cheese.
could, I don't really pay attention to who buys who, but I
That's
could tell 3 months after they got bought. And then I was like, why did this change? And then I looked and then I saw that they had been bought. And I
Mhm.
was so beyond frustrated because these big companies are like they want to get into the health food market and they pay these small businesses more money than they could ever dream of, and it seems to make good financial sense for them, which I respect, that's fine, but it ruins the product every single time. Sometimes it's a few months later, sometimes it's a couple years later when the contract runs out and they can change the formula. But it's like you have to look at the label every single
Time.
time you buy a product. It doesn't
Yep.
matter if you have bought it 100 times for the last 100 weeks, you have to look at the labels every single time. So, um, I'm pregnant, and when I'm pregnant, I just crave dairy and I can't have dairy. So I did get goat's milk. And there's
Yep.
one goat's milk yogurt. Well, it got bought out by another farm or another
Oh,
company, and they add tapioca flour to it, which I'm like, that's eh. But it used to just be goat milk and probiotics. And now it's like all these other things. And I'm just like, it's the
because
only
it's
option I have. So I'm going to eat it. And I'm not allergic to anything, but I'm so frustrated that this pure product that I've depended on for years, literally years, all of a sudden is full of crap. And it's healthy food crap. And I'm
it's
so beyond frustrated. And it's like you have to look at the label every single time.
and what I find fascinating, so everything you described are preservatives, and they're all made with corn. That's what makes them shelf stable, so it'll last longer. That's the whole reason they add
And
all this crap.
you and I
Yeah.
are both allergic to corn, and
Yep.
corn has 110 at the last time I checked different names in food.
Actually, it's everything now.
Is
Every
it?
ingredient that's made in a lab is now made with corn, and it can be interchanged with wheat.
And this is why I advocate just eating real food.
Yeah,
But even
exactly.
then, the real food, depending, like you have to look at the label every time because you just never
Yeah. Well, and it's like
know.
if you want like great fresh yogurt, goat milk, cheese, or even the yogurt, you have to find a local goat farm who does all that. Because that's the
Yeah,
only way to actually get it whole and food, like just to be as clean as possible. You can't find stuff like that on the market. Like
no.
it's ridiculous.
And
And
I feel like it's getting worse as healthy
it
eating
is.
has become more popular.
Yep.
Which, is just incredibly frustrating. And then, like you, I work with people who have hundred, over 100 food sensitivities. I mean, and ranging from 30 to like 100, and I think 156 was my top so far. And, you know, and it's like I have people that are allergic to cherries and they put cherry juice inside of sausage to make it red and the organic sausage, right? So cherry, I mean, that's great. Like it makes it pretty, it makes it easier to sell, questionable on that, but people expect things to look a certain way. But if you're
Yeah.
allergic to cherries, like, and
Yeah.
it's like, who would be? But there's a lot of people allergic to stone
Right.
fruits,
Right. Well,
and
and that's a more like because most people use beet juice for making things red. It doesn't make it as red as a cherry, but cherries has more of, again, like you were just saying, it's a stone fruit. More people are going to be allergic to it
yeah,
than beet.
and it's just it's so frustrating that you have to go to such extreme lengths, especially when there's budgetary constraints.
Yep.
And time constraints
Yep.
and, people who are working, the breadwinners that are working 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week and, don't have time to go hunting at farmers markets and interviewing farmers and driving to the other side of the state. And, it's so funny that I say that because when I lived in the South, you could drive across the state in an hour. And here in Phoenix, you drive an hour and you're still in Phoenix. So
Yes, yes, you are.
going to the other side of the state could be 6 hours, and then there's California and you're like 20 hours,
Yeah, I drive an
or
hour and I
Texas.
maybe go 30 miles.
Yeah. Texas is another one,
Don't
line to
even go
line,
to
like,
Texas, right?
and so it's like, and it's like, how do you navigate the real world where you can't live in this magic bubble? And
Yeah.
I feel like that's your mission is to help clarify that, but
Yep.
to also give people resources. So let's start diving into how you do that.
Well, that's the fun, exciting news. I know this won't, tomorrow I actually am doing a full out launch of a whole new side for the business, which is I'm educating the consumer. So I'm launching some food coaching. I'm launching resource guides. The first guides will be like my food allergy tracker, what I used, including tracking your emotions and your other types of
Hmm.
symptoms you have when eating food. What was the other thing? I have four guides I'm launching by Thanksgiving. So like the week of Thanksgiving, all this will be open to the public to see. But
That's so exciting.
reality is I'm a research-based person. So if you go to my book website, thehiddenconsumer.com, I literally have a research documentation page which links you back to everything. Everything we've discussed has peer-reviewed science to say, yeah, those are issues. But the food and beverage industry is ignoring the research. So, yeah, there are six. One of the big topics in my book was there are they a research study on six key ingredients, which are in almost everything. They're used as preservatives, and they're also fake sugars. Um, are leading cause of health and chronic health conditions in Americans. So like I realized when I took a lot of these, I've had chronic pain for all my life, chronic migraines, which got worse until I got the corn out of my diet. I've got primary lymphedema. I'm missing roughly 50% of my lymph nodes on the right side of
Oh,
my body. So my system can't, I have to drink more water than the average person because of that. The CRPS, I got diagnosed with the whole paralysis thing came back to Wartenberg's migratory neuropathy syndrome. And all of my chronic inflammation came back to my food sensitivities. Once I removed my food sensitivities, overall health improved, mental and physical. Like
yeah.
food is the total thing. Like whatever you feed your body is what you're going to feel and be like. There's
So
no,
there's something I want to talk about because I get really, really frustrated when and I see where they're coming from. So but this is just my own personal frustration because
I
of
get,
food sensitivities and the people I work with majority of the time is they don't believe in food sensitivity panels. And yeah, and it's like, okay, I understand if there's somebody's showing that they're allergic to everything, they're not allergic to everything, quote unquote. But
yeah,
it's a window into, whoa, they got leaky gut, they got inflammation, their body's attacking literally everything, and it gives you a place to start. But it also allows for tracking, for us to
Yeah.
find the big ones, right? So it's kind of a tool to help us clear the smoke so we can see the
Yep.
fire, right? And
Yes.
and I know you said you had done food sensitivity testing and all this stuff, but like for me as a health coach and working with people that have all these tests, and I'm so grateful for the doctors that are willing to run them when I ask for them that they wouldn't. I'm like, can you please just like the client's willing to pay for them. I'm like, can you please just so we I can see what's going on, and it gives me a solid place to start,
Yep.
right? And I'm a firm believer of test don't guess, especially when like just like cleaning up the diet and cleaning up the environment and just kind of doing basic things and they don't get better. That
Yep.
20% of people who don't get better, I'm like, we have got to kind of throw some spaghetti at the wall and get some major tests done. Let's do a Dutch test. Let's do a food sensitivity panel. Let's do an environmental panel. Let's do some Zoomers. Let's do a gut Zoomer. Let's see what pathogens we might be dealing with, and let's just spend $1,500 on testing. I understand that's expensive, but let's do it so that we can go, okay, this is a big ball of knotted yarn that we need to slowly untie, and let's
Right?
find let's find okay, if the gut's really, really bad, let's start focusing on that, right?
Yep.
And then if it's still not getting better, then it's like, okay, then we can move to, if there's no other pathogens, right? Because you always address pathogens first. If there's mold, if there's parasites, if there's
Yes.
Lyme disease, you have to deal with those before, and diet plays a role, but you have to deal with those because
Yep.
without dealing with those, this other things are just kind of band-aids on a dam,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
So I kind of have to get on my soapbox on that because
Absolutely.
when it comes to those of us who are super complex that have multiple things going on, the testing is so important and the food sensitivities are so important. And yes, sometimes it takes a really long time to figure out,
It does.
but it gives us a place to start, you
And
know.
here's what's fascinating is if you look at our food today and how it's produced and how it's made, moldy corn is a good basis for a majority, especially all corn-based sugars are made from moldy corn. And what I find fascinating is over the years of talking to people, advising people on their own health and why they're reacting more and more to things, it's we're eating so much more processed and ultra processed foods that we have exceeded the legal amount of mold in our diets. And so if you have a mold allergy and you should start by like cutting out all sodas and energy drinks because the amount of molds in those drinks alone is going to trigger you because you're already ultra sensitive to that. So
Yeah.
it's little things, and that's the knowledge I bring. I'm like,
Yeah,
hey, guess
no,
what I know?
I do that, and then I add wheat because wheat actually gets pretty moldy in
Yeah,
our harvesting process as
yeah,
well. So like the big hitters are corn and wheat. And
yeah.
of course, a lot of nuts, unfortunately, also get super moldy. And
And I have,
again, it's our our harvesting practices and our food storage practices, and they just
yeah,
spray things with like
pesticides. Just
well, pesticides, but also like I'm trying to think. I think it's AC refrigerant that they'll spray on a lot of things to kill the mold to make it pretty at the store.
yeah,
But it doesn't get rid of the mold, it just makes it hidden. And first of all, that's disgusting. And I don't understand why that's legal.
yeah.
Um, so yeah,
It's
no, and I have a low mold diet and it cuts out all of those big hitters, because even if it's environmental mold that it pops on a test, dietary mold is
yep,
a contributing factor.
yep. Well, it's like in my journey when I started with, I was diagnosed grass, birch, and mold and pet dander allergies. Well, corn is a grass, so it makes sense. And when you can factor in that most ingredients are made from moldy corn, I'm just eating moldy grass. It explains a lot about my sensitivity levels being
Mhm.
more extreme than most people. Because
Yeah, you canary in the coal mine.
I
So am I. Like I feel like I'm talking to myself. Yours progressed a lot further than mine did, but I feel like I'm talking to myself because you and I are two peas in a pod when it comes to
am.
that.
But that's what makes us really good at our jobs. because
Yes.
because we had to learn from experience such a depth of knowledge, like the amount of people I've helped understand that they have a corn sensitivity, they're nowhere near where I am, but they had got such a better clarity around how they were having issues with corn. It actually helped them with other diagnoses that they needed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my own allergist, who eventually went over all my findings, we talked about it, was so impressed that she took my research and applied it to her six hardest cases and discovered the six cases were all had corn allergies at some level. She did come back to say none of them are as sensitive as you, but
Well, thank goodness, right? Like, but it's
right?
still debilitating. Like I, like you, had debilitating chronic migraines,
Yeah.
and cutting out corn eliminated 90%. Like I don't get migraines anymore. I get barometric pressure headaches,
Yeah.
but they're not debilitating. They're
Yeah.
just kind of annoying, and a little bit of caffeine will knock it out.
Oh, you're lucky.
I'm very lucky. And I recognize I'm blessed with that. I can also tell when I'm not taking as good of care of myself because the headaches get worse and like they don't get as knocked out. But
Yeah.
with the corn allergy, a lot of medications
I'm allergic to all medications, all supplements.
because of the corn and the gluten. There's corn and
Yep.
wheat in like
Well,
all of them.
yep, and my counter is soy actually. So I can't wheat and gluten go or wheat and corn like they're interchangeable. It's like so I can do some wheat. I found some safe wheat, so I know I don't have a gluten intolerance, but mine was corn and soy. It's
Hmm.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that goes back to no, no, I love this conversation because for one, I don't get to talk about it very often. And two, I haven't actually talked about food sensitivities in probably year and a half, 2 years. Just because I've been, the podcast has been going a different direction, but it comes back to like food sensitivities are so complex
Yes.
and really make such an impact when we can figure out what they are and remove them.
Hmm.
And, you know, for me and my practice, one of the ways that I help people remove them is first of all, we go to less than 10% processed.
Yep.
We're doing 90% plus of
Yep.
food from the earth without all those extra ingredients and just learning how to make those taste good and learning how to cook them.
Yeah.
And then from there, that might solve, for most people, that might solve 100%.
Yep.
But then there's still about 20% that we have to go further,
Yeah.
right? And food sensitivity testing has been instrumental. That and glucose monitoring, the continuous glucose monitors. I can actually see food sensitivities from a continuous glucose monitor because it spikes the blood sugar.
Oh, oh.
So like I've had people that like they can eat wheat just fine, they can eat, tapioca just fine, but every time they eat rice, holy moly, do they get a spike?
Well,
You
and that
know,
leads to questions too of where are they getting the food? Like I can't eat American rice. I have to have my rice imported and then I'm fine.
yeah. And it's just one of those things that like people have to experiment along the way themselves,
Absolutely.
right? But like we can see patterns. So like my two favorite tools are food sensitivity panels and continuous glucose monitors because we can get so much data from those, and then of course if things aren't getting better, then we can do the other testing, the gut zoomers and things like that. But I'm such a big fan of that. Now I want to go back on topic and talk about what is in our food and how is it hidden and what do we look for as consumers?
As consumers, the big thing I'm going to tell you is it's exactly what we were just talking about. You want to look at those ingredients. The more you have scientific ingredients on the back, the more likely they're going to actually be made from corn, they're going to be made from wheat, they're going to be made from everything under the
Soy.
sun, right? But they're not,
Yeah.
and even though they are chemically accurate, which is what science is backed on, the problem is you're not getting the nutrients, the true nutrients you need out of those lab created ingredients. The bigger problem goes back to the soil we're growing those in. Because all of our food now is based around corporate farming and it's not your local farmer, that means corporate farming, they are using mass producing pesticides and lab created fertilizers, not natural. And I'll get into if you want to
And
talk
then
manure, I could go all in on that one, but
Oh, I love that topic too. We might have to, I'm probably just gonna have to have you back so we can kind of take people deeper because this is kind of a rabbit hole
It is.
of information. I mean, I've been studying nutrition for 16 years now, and I've been in practice for 13 years. And oh gosh, I mean, I'm still going down rabbit holes today.
Yeah,
Just more and more information is coming out. But yeah, corporate farming.
it's the biggest killer to our food system.
It absolutely is. The soil's depleted. The two biggest, now I guess there's three now because there's atrazine is a big one, glyphosate, which they're phasing out. And then they're replacing it with, oh gosh, I'm spacing, but it starts with a D.
Yeah.
And it's like way more toxic than glyphosate
Which
is.
the research on that is intense. Like I
Yeah.
quoted the World Health Organization and the United Nations because they did research on it, and it was like the amount of like that this needs to be banned worldwide, and here we are moving into corporate farming. But here's the flip side. If you look at all that corporate farming, Iowa is the center for corporate farming, and they now have the highest rate of cancer in the world. In
Yeah.
the world. I was reading up on farmers were writing into like the oh my gosh, the Iowa Register, and they were complaining about all the farms, and they were putting the small farmer out of business, and how so many farmers, it's like an Aaron Brockovich story throughout the entire state or country, yeah, state of Iowa. Because their water supply has gotten so bad. And it
Hmm.
all goes back to they're growing all like 90% of corn grown in the country is corn is not for human consumption. It's raised for
Hmm.
animals. Those animals in Iowa are getting this, which is now causing them to be born needing like in kidney failure, needing medications, needing probiotics, antibiotics, the whole list of things. All that manure, they're producing more manure than they can control, which is now contaminating their entire state's water supply, which is now leading into they have the highest rate of cancer in the world. Like it all goes back to our soil.
Yeah, my uncle actually lives in Iowa, and he tried to grow an organic garden next to his father-in-law's cornfield.
Yeah,
And he said they couldn't even eat the food because all the bugs ate it before they could even touch it. And I'm like,
yeah,
well, yeah, because they're not gonna die
yeah.
when they eat it. But there's no way to truly have an organic farm when the air
Is
is full of pesticides.
Yeah, and that's what Iowa's created.
Yeah, and it's incredibly unfortunate. And I'm a big fan of the current administration's push for regenerative farming and making it easier for small farmers.
I actually am not, because there's so much corn involved in regenerative farming. Like there's a company called Farmers Direct. They have regenerative
Okay.
on the market. I went down with a 36-hour migraine because of their practices they're using. So that they're using the right terminology, but legally there's nothing behind them on how they have to market it. And unfortunately,
Which it needs to be
which
changed.
that's
Really at the end of the day, it has to be a grassroots effort.
mm,
But
yeah,
also change takes years, especially when the government is subsidizing things.
yeah,
It takes years to trickle down, and you have a lot of hands in the pot
yeah,
trying to water things down to make it less expensive.
yeah,
I appreciate the effort. I appreciate the attention drawn
yes,
to it.
yeah.
Um, you know, I have a friend who her and her husband moved out of the city and started a farm in Alabama.
Oh,
And, we are the same. She's the same as us, right? Like
yeah,
organic food, super clean, health issues and all of that. And they want to be part of the change from within,
yeah,
right? And it always breaks my heart to see, for one, the suicide rate of farmers
right.
and the way the government decreases the amount of money they're going to get at harvest season. Like, oh yeah, you're going to get this much, and then you're planning on this much, and then they cut it in half or
Yeah,
2/3, and
yeah,
then all of a sudden you can't pay your bills, and
yeah,
they don't allow, if you want to sell it at a store, you have to raise your pigs a certain way, and it's not a healthy way, and
yeah.
there's just this whole thing, and it really, really has to be a grassroots effort, and it's like. And I think that's what's so frustrating because like here in Arizona, like, yeah, we have some farms and they're great, but I go to a farmer's market and it's 90% bead jewelry and
Right.
paintings
Yeah.
and honey. Like there's like a million different bee farms, but it's like there's one company I know of that goes to Alaska to bring in fish.
Yep. Me too.
There are maybe three farms that are raising their cows humanely
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
grass fed, grass finished, and, things like that. And it's like, and the produce that can be grown here is so limited.
Yeah.
And, so
Yeah.
you can't get the range,
Yeah. It's one of the things I
and
enjoy about California is we have certified California organic, which is top. It beats USD organic hands down. Like w-
yeah,
everything you described, I can get. The problem is it's so much money and so much time and effort because you have to have, I think your land has to be pesticide fertilizer free for 40 years to get certified California organic. That takes time. You're not gonna like
yeah,
decide tomorrow you're gonna go certified California. You gotta like there's a
yeah,
process you gotta go through. So it's way better, but we have very few. Like I've got three in my area that are certified. Thank gosh I
yeah,
live next to Temecula.
right? Yeah. And it's just like, you know,
Yeah.
the change from within is really slow. It takes
It,
a mass effort.
yep.
And I see it sprouting. Like we're kind of I saw the seeds being planted, and I think we're starting to see like the little, sprouts coming, peeking out through the ground. But we're in the very, very beginning of it, and all that we can do is bring attention to it, and do what we can with what we have.
Yep.
And when people are really, really severe, you have to find a way
To
to make it work.
Yep. Well, and it was the whole reason why I wrote The Hidden Consumer. I knew this was going to be a grassroots effort when I started, but we needed to get the information out there quicker. And because of I had the research and the data, I could take it and run with it. Now there are certain wine countries that have, I think, banned me from talking to them because they don't want to hear it. Because I
Hmm.
am literally going to be writing out guides on alcohol because I'm like, if you have a food sensitivity, you need to just cut alcohol out of your diet until we figure out what's going on. But like I like wine, but unfortunately I can't drink a lot of American wine because I'm actually corn is used to make commercialized yeast. So if your yeast is bought on the shelf next to your flour, I'm going to be allergic. I have to buy refrigerated yeast, which you can't find. So,
Yeah.
I loved France. I went to France for 10 days, ate there. I still got sick. When I ate at like French cuisine, I would get sick. If I ate regional cuisine, I was fine. No issues because they do organic so well in Europe, or at least
Oh, they
France.
do.
But yeah,
No, the UK too. I've just heard like eating healthy in Europe is
so much easier.
so much cheaper
Yes.
and
Yeah.
easier. They've banned a lot of the chemicals. You have to prove everything is guilty until proven innocent
Yep.
over there. So, like, I think even in makeup, they only have like 400 chemicals, where we have
Yeah.
thousands upon thousands. And same with, pesticides and herbicides. It's a handful compared to what we have here. And the amounts that they tolerate are significantly lower than what we
We,
would
we,
we
yeah.
tolerate here. Um, and I think the word's getting out on that, and everybody's frustrated. And there's almost this battle of the elites and the common man right now of, you know, it really feels that way, right? Like Bill Gates buying up all of the farmland and he's going to be putting solar panels on it. So we're not even going to be able to grow food. And, this push to get animals out of our diet and only live on plants. Hello, mold.
Right.
It's just, it really feels this way. And it feels like such an uphill battle. And I think what happens is a lot of people start to feel defeated. And
Yeah.
I don't have the energy to do this. It's really frustrating. And so I love the information that you're pushing, because when people are armed with information, you can start. I'm a big fan, not to talk politics, but I think local matters so much more than federal.
Yeah.
And I really think because local really does impact us.
Yep.
And, the grassroots efforts start in your neighborhood, in your city, in
Yeah.
your state, and you can control so much, just like California with the 40 year of the soil,
Yeah.
right? Like, I have an aunt and uncle who have a farm, a very successful farm in upper New Mexico.
Oh,
And they refuse to apply for USDA organic because it's unbelievably expensive.
mhm.
But even as an organic, if there is an invasive species that comes in, whether it's bugs or plant, they have to use certain chemicals that are not organic.
Yep,
So they say we're 99% organic, but there are times that the state requires us. We legally are required to do XYZ.
yep.
But also it's just so expensive. And that's where it's like you have to get to know your farmer.
Yeah.
We're at the point now that we go and visit them or my parents will go and visit them during harvest season and pick their produce and then bring it back and share it with my sister and I. But it only lasts like a week. Like I had the most amazing tomatoes of my life and they were gone in like 4 days,
Yeah.
and you just can't even, I've never had a tomato that good that's been grown here. And
Oh,
there's organic produce boxes that you can pick up, and
yeah.
I mean the food tastes amazing, but it's not, and it's within 500 miles, right?
Yep.
So a lot of it's from California, we get some from Mexico, we get some from New Mexico,
The minute,
southern Colorado,
yep.
all of that. But it's it's so much better than what you can get on the grocery store, but it's still just not as good as,
And it's
you
because they
know,
still have to process it in order for food to cross the line. No, even if you're not USD organic, they still have to spray it. So you're
yeah.
still getting it sprayed. Like,
Yeah, you don't want well, and
you don't
I
want the bug.
kind of understand.
Yep.
You don't want bugs that
And
you don't want bugs to
hitch
cross
a
state
ride.
lines. Yes, and that's a very real thing, right?
It
And
is.
then all of a sudden, there's this pest that doesn't have the appropriate predators,
Yeah.
and it just runs rampant, and then people have to use chemicals because there's
That's,
literally no other choice to eradicate them. And so I get it.
yep.
I totally, totally get it. And it's just like it is so complex.
It is. You know what's fascinating is talking about wine earlier. There is a winery in Paso Robles that they're called Tobolus Creek, and they're
Hmm.
actually the world leader in organic farming for the wine industry, like using solar panels, using sheep, like for everything to pest control. And because obviously we live in an area that's highly flammable, they put in
Yeah.
natural barriers to reduce their chances of of fire. So there are ways to get it done. It's just, do you have the patience and the time and the money to make it happen? And that's the unfortunate part.
Yeah, the financial barrier is
Way too intense.
insane, and they do that on purpose.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Like it's totally, totally on purpose. And again, it's that elite versus the common man, I feel like, is like
Believe
they all just protect each other
yeah.
and try to make the most money possible, and they don't care about the consumer. They've convinced themselves that man-made is better,
Yeah.
and that's just the way it is.
Yeah. And the unfortunate part is more and more people, like, everybody has a food story. Like
Hmm.
I've been doing this for over a decade, and everybody has a food story. They or half their family or friends, someone has some kind of sensitivity that doesn't have legal recognition. And
Yeah.
it's those food sensitivities that are growing, and more people are frustrated because all those food sensitivities are being thrown into your products, and now everyone is seeing that they really, our food is making us sick. At the end of the day, that
Yeah.
that was what the study that came out in 2024 or 2020, yeah, 2024 was all about. All of the people who got sick. It's just
Yeah.
kidney failure. The 30 to 40-year-old population that is in kidney failure from sodas and energy drinks and American coffee, unfortunately, is like 37 million people. It's equivalent to the state of New York, is how many
That
people
is
are in kidney failure.
crazy.
That's the highest population ever. I mean, when you see a dialysis center pop up on the corner, it's not because grandma and grandpa are living longer. It's because your grandkids are literally dying of kidney failure because of the man-made sugars we put in their diet.
Colorectal cancer
Yep.
is on the rise. Fatty liver in kids
Yes.
is on the rise. And there are some skinny kids with really fatty livers,
Yep. It's
and it's all back to
the food we
ultra
the
processed food.
foods. Yep. Well, and like the thing I'm hearing about the most right now is doctors are aware that soy-induced thyroid cancer has been on the rise for how long now? And it's because the soy grown in this country isn't natural. So if you're eating tofu, you've just increased your chances of cancer. thyroid cancer.
Yep.
Like, we shouldn't have to worry about the food we're putting in our bodies. This should be safe.
Yeah.
We should be able to
Yeah.
nurture ourselves and our children without having to think twice, am I going to kill my kid because I gave them that sandwich?
Mm. Yeah.
Or because I gave them tofu. Like you,
Yeah. It's I almost feel like it's going to take an entire cultural overhaul because if you look at Europe, work is not central to their lives. It's something that they do, but they live their life. They're buying fresh food every day or every other day. They buy bread that goes moldy after 2 days. And so you buy just a small little loaf. Yeah. You buy a couple of apples and a couple of this and a couple of that. You make your meals like they have 32-hour work weeks and like all of this stuff. And
yeah,
like, I mean, I'm going to the grocery store 3 days a week
yeah,
because for one, we're a big family, but two, we eat very fresh, right? So you can't buy a lot. And the people, and I have friends that are just as much of a health nut as I am, but they cannot do that same thing because they work so much. So it's like this whole cultural shift, and I don't know the answer to that outside of education
yeah,
demanding, changes from companies, which I think are slowly happening. I'm interested to see what chemicals are replaced as things are getting cleaned up, the Maha movement and companies committing to that. I'm interested to read the ingredients as they are phasing out certain things. I'm like, what are they going to replace it with? Is it actually going to be a healthier version?
it's not. It's not.
At the end of the day, they have to make money, and cost is a barrier.
Yeah,
People eat better in Europe and it costs less. And it's like, for one, they're smaller countries. So things are grown and have less time to travel.
right.
But we could do that here.
Oh, we
We
could,
absolutely could easily
well,
do that
and
here.
I,
Even from the mega
yeah,
companies, like indoor farming, like here in Phoenix, we could have huge warehouses with indoor farming and UV lights. There's absolutely no reason why we couldn't do that. And, I had another food industry expert on, I think it was last year, maybe 2 years ago now. I had her on like 3 times. And she was talking about like in these places like near the Canadian border who are doing indoor farming and explaining the process,
yeah, because,
right?
yeah,
And
yep,
and it's like so they can grow food year round. That's healthy. And there's absolutely no reason why we couldn't have more small farmers, why we couldn't have take advantage of the technology that we have to make it so that each region feeds itself.
yep. Well, and what I find fascinating is so I don't shop at a grocery store. Like there's a few base products I have to go to the grocery store for, but for the most part, I go grocery shopping once a week at my local farmers market, and I know what other ones to go to if I miss that one. But my bill hasn't changed. In over a decade, my grocery bill has stayed relatively the same amount versus,
Oh, that must be nice.
right? But I'm buying local. I'm buying from farmers. I know who my farmer is. I know what they're doing to the food as they pull it out of the soil. So I know who because I still can't just because you're certified organic doesn't mean you're doing everything right. But and I watch people and they're like, compare to what we can buy at a farmer's market. And you just made me think. I think one of my resource guides I'm going to put out by Thanksgiving is going to be how to store fresh vegetables to make them last longer.
That's important.
Because
That's
yeah, I have fresh vegetables that will last me 2 to 3 weeks, but you have to store them a certain way. And maybe that's the storage guide is more important to people right now because there are people doing the right thing, but it's not lasting as long. So how do we make it last? So
Yeah, absolutely. We've lost so much wisdom on
we
from
really,
farm to table.
yep, yep,
And one of the things I'm seeing in this next and up and coming generation is they are disgusted with
yeah,
social media and with the way life is now, and they want to go back to a time when things were simpler
yeah,
and there was human connection and connection to the earth.
yeah,
And I think this next up and coming generation, my kids,
yeah,
I think it's just going and I'm doing everything I can in my power to lay a foundation for that to continue so that they can
yeah.
do that.
Really.
And that's our mission, right? Um, but yeah, there's so much wisdom. people don't know how to sew. People don't know how to just reuse things.
Yeah.
They don't, they don't, there's so much throwaway culture versus reuse and learn how to keep things and,
Yep.
things like that. And so, and then food storage, like all of us, it's either we put it in the fridge or we put it in a little bowl thingy and we wait and see what happens. Like,
Yep.
and so I think that what you, again, the education you are bringing is so, so valuable
Thank you. Yeah,
to people. I just love what you're doing, and I'm so excited to be able to connect people to you and to your resources. I think it's going to be part of you are part of the movement. That's where we are going to be changing
we
things
will.
together.
Yeah.
And I
We
think
gotta make it
it's
easier.
really, really,
Gotta make it easier for
yeah,
us. We just have to. This is ridiculous.
yeah. It is absolutely ridiculous. And so, again, share your website, share your book, and how can people get these resources from you?
Resources are all gonna be, I haven't put them out there yet. They're coming.
Oh, by the time this podcast
It'll
launches,
be out
it'll
there
be out.
somewhere.
Yep.
It'll probably be everywhere. So if you're looking for my book, you can buy it anywhere you buy books. Amazon, bookshop.org, your local bookseller, Barnes and Noble, Target, anywhere. If you are looking for more information around the book, what's going to be kind of in it, thehiddenconsumer.com is the book website. You might have to do /home. I don't know if the redirect is working yet.
Technology,
My
man,
technology. I built
kills
it in my
me.
CRM to make my life easy, but it's not making my life easy. So,
Yeah.
and yeah, and then for my actual like food coaching side and how I work with businesses as a business consultant to marketing, that's hiddenconsumersconsulting.com. So, two different things, but they're both. I knew when I started my company it was all going to be about grassroots, and it's not just about educating the people in marketing departments. It's about arming our people with more information, and that's where the hidden
Yeah.
consumer is launching. Really, that side where I'm helping other people understand the depth of knowledge that they need to be able to eat safely, which is unfortunate. It would
Yeah.
be easier if the marketing would just change, but it's not going to change overnight. We
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we'll be having completely different conversations in 20 years, but this is the conversation that matters now
now,
to
yes,
get to that point where I would love to get to a point where I don't have to educate people on food because it's just how we live. I'm like, I just have this mission to bring people back to the food and medicine God provides us.
yeah,
And that's our foundation. Of course, sometimes we need processed, we need pharmaceutical grade, we need acute care medicine. Like we need all of those things. I have clients that have have autoimmune conditions that they're still on medication. They're on very little,
right,
very low doses, but without them, they would die.
right,
And modern medicine is a marvel. And to mass produce food to feed everybody, like what we've been doing is what's worked. It needs to change.
yeah,
What that change looks like is ever evolving, I think.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, like I would love to work myself out of a job
Me
and be
too.
able to, just, stay at home and raise my babies and keep my house clean and, make my own clothes. I don't know. I'm terrible at sewing, but I'm sure I could learn. You
Know
know,
how to sew. I don't think I would. I can't do it for anybody else, but I can sew.
it's so funny because I wanted to learn how to sew as a kid, and my mom put me in lessons because I struggled so much, and I just couldn't. I can put on buttons,
Oh, you
and
sew
that's
better
like
than me.
about it. And it's just like, well, everybody has their gifts. And I think mine is making food taste good and talking to people and connecting people. We all have our strengths.
Yeah, yep,
But it's one of those things that I would love for both of us to work ourselves out of a job
good.
that we could have other passions and other pursuits
Right.
that don't come to helping people find ways to eat in a way that removes disease
Yeah.
and improves health and wellness and mental wellness, physical wellness, all of that.
Yep.
It's so unbelievably frustrating how difficult it is. So I'm so grateful that I'm it's unfortunate that you had to get so sick
Yeah.
to get to this point, but the fact that you're using it to improve the system and to help people is such a blessing, and I'm so grateful for
And
what you're doing.
I'm so grateful for you getting that message out there too with everything you're doing. Like, we're not going to do this alone. My goal is I got to build the network. Everybody, I've got experts in all different areas because I can't do it all. And
Yep.
I even have an expert in how do you create a meeting with at quality for the food for the buffet table? Like, how do you make sure everyone who has a food issue can still eat safely at a meeting? So, like,
Oh, that's huge. That would be so nice. I always have to bring my own food. I feel like I'm just on a chronic picnic because I have to make sure, like even if people say, "Oh, we'll have food for you," I'm like, I'm just gonna bring this cooler just in case because
no, trust
you never
me,
know,
no,
right? Like it's so I can't tell you how many times I've gotten sick.
yeah,
It's not worth it. And my daughter's in the same boat. She has to, like she has a choir concert. I'm like, oh, we're giving them salad and pizza. And I'm like, okay, I will be bringing her dinner after school
yep,
because I guarantee you it's not going to be safe for her to eat. And the last thing she needs is to be stuck on the toilet for her choir concert.
concert, yeah.
And it's,
And how do people not understand these concepts?
especially in schools,
Yes.
especially in restaurants and bakeries.
Yeah.
Like I talked to so many chefs and they are trained in food allergies. So people who pay to go to cooking school to become,
Yeah.
the fancy label chef that are actually trained, they know food allergies and they know what they can and cannot do. But then you have people who just are good at baking
Yeah.
who, oh yeah, it's totally allergen friendly. I'm like, do you not realize that almonds flour gets everywhere?
Yeah.
Like, are you having dedicated spaces? You can't have wheat in the same, like it's so frustrating. I appreciate the intent, but the intent doesn't matter if people get sick.
Exactly. It's, yeah. And it's in the book too. It's like you have to understand your health is more important, and the marketing teams don't understand it. As long as you buy their product, even if it's the last thing you buy, they don't care because they got your dollar. And that's what we need to change. We need to change that mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you again for your time. I know we went a little over, but I really, really just appreciate and I've really enjoyed this conversation.
It was so much fun. Thank you so much. This was great.
This conversation was so fun, and I hope you learned a lot about advocacy, farming practices, what's in your food, and are inspired to be part of the movement to change our food system for the better of our health and the health of our children. The system does not make it easy, and it's going to take every single one of us. Both my and Amy's goal is to make getting your health back as easy as possible. I do this with my meal plan programs. I remove all of the guesswork around what healthy eating looks like and show you exactly what you need to do to eat anti-inflammatory, blood sugar balancing, go to the grocery store, come home, cook meals in 20 minutes or less, maybe 30 if it's something like super fancy, or maybe it's like in a crock pot or something. And that's it. I have two options for you. One is a 2-week meal plan online course you do all by yourself with my meal plans, grocery list, shortcuts, and even a couple cooking videos. The other is a full-on coaching program where you and I get to meet one-on-one. I get to learn where you're at right now and guide you through to reach your health goals. It's called my Therapeutic Food Framework. In there, I do all of the heavy lifting for you in creating meal plans with few ingredients, simple recipes, and yet tons of flavor, sharing all of my tips, tricks, and shortcuts so you aren't spending hours in the kitchen in the grocery store, plus how to talk to friends and family, enjoy holiday dinners, travel, and more. And when needed, follow a therapeutic diet prescribed by your practitioner for things like autoimmune disease, mold toxicity, histamine intolerance, hormone balancing, leaky gut, and more. All of my resources for you are in one place. You'll have lifetime access to it. You will also get coaching sessions with me to help individualize the program and have emotional support when you need it during this season of life. It is lonely and hard, but it doesn't have to be. And there's no need to be an expert in the kitchen. You can be new to cooking or well-versed. You'll be able to make meals and desserts you and your loved ones will enjoy eating that also support your health versus tearing it down. And all those roadblocks that have hindered your journey in the past, you have a coach who can help you overcome them with different strategies and support so they no longer trip you up. You deserve to feel your absolute best, and I would love to help you navigate how to eat real food and enjoy it. Head down to the show notes to learn how to connect with Amy and take advantage of all of her resources and learn more about the therapeutic food framework. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you found this episode helpful, would you do me a favor and help others find it by leaving a review, sharing a screenshot on social media, or sharing the link with a friend? By you sharing what you've learned, others are able to find this podcast and join our community. Be sure to check out my website, www.roadtolivingwhole.com, for over 160 delicious recipes, a variety of meal plans, and a blog packed full of even more healthy living tips. If you'd like to learn more about how to work with me as your coach, you can schedule a free consult through www.roadtolivingwhole.com/health-coaching/. Until next time, friend. Bye.